Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, or good afternoon, I should say, depending on where you are joining us from. We really want to recognize you taking the time out to join us for this International Student Orientation Information Session. We will be sharing some very important information that we know you will be able to utilize in your admission process here at UT Dallas. Next slide, please. Before we begin, we will go over some event logistics. So you will be able to see us and also hear us. However, we cannot see you nor hear you. You will be able to ask us questions. There is a comment box that is available and it will open at the end of the presentation. So if you do think of any questions, just make note of them for now on a piece of paper or something, and then you can post them in the comment box at the end of the session. The comment box can be found at the top of your screen. You'll see like two chat bubbles and a question mark. And if you click on it, you can post your question there. So you can post them at the end of the session and we will also answer them during that time as well. Closed captioning is available if you would like that additional language support. So look for the closed caption button at the top right of your screen actually. So at the top right of your screen, there should be three dots that go right beside each other. And if you click on there, you'll see something that says CC or closed captioning. Next, I will call upon Leticia Zamaripa to give us a word. Leticia.
Thank you very much, Tamara. Hello, good morning or evening, depending on where in the world you are. My name is Leticia Zamaripa. I'm Director of Global Engagement in charge of the Intercultural Programs Office. On behalf of our team, welcome to the session. Thank you very much for joining us, for making time to join us this morning. This session will provide information regarding tuition plans, payment plans, options, and all you need to know concerning payments at UT Dallas. We are positive that you will get all the information that you will need. Today with us will be Lisa Davis. Lisa is the Assistant Director of Student Accounts at the Bursar office. The Bursar office is responsible for all transactions involving UTD students. So thank you, Lisa, for joining us. I invite you to start with the session. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leticia. Welcome. And again, my name is Lisa Davis. I'm the Assistant Director of Student Accounts in the Bursar office. I will be giving you a lot of information today, so it may seem overwhelming, but please know that you can always email us at bursar@utdallas.edu, or you can give us a call during our business hours, Monday through Friday. It's going to be from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. And so we'll answer you during those office hours. If you just need clarification on something, or if you have a question specifically related to your account, it would be good to either email us or give us a call. But again, I'm going to be going over a lot of information regarding payment of your tuition and fees and just a lot of different stuff this morning. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. So some of the Bursar office functions, we assess, bill, and collect on all tuition and fees. And we collect on housing charges, and we collect on meal plan charges. Now, let me tell you a little bit why that's different, why I have that separate than assessing, billing, and collecting on tuition and fees. So if you were to call our office and ask us a question about why you're being charged a certain amount for your tuition, so let's say you're enrolled in 9 credit hours and you want to make sure that we're charging you the correct tuition, we're going to be able to look at that. We're going to be able to assess it and figure out if that's correct. If you call us about your housing charges, or maybe you have a meal plan and you ask us, you know, it doesn't look like my meal plan charges are correct or my housing charges are correct, we're not going to really know whether or not that's correct, because that is a contract that you have with the dining services or the housing office. We sometimes can get a hold of them on your behalf, However, we're not the ones who actually handle those contracts. But anything that's related to tuition and fees, we can definitely tell you whether or not those charges are correct. We also answer questions about the billing statement. And since everything's on the billing statement, if you call us or email us, we're going to look at the billing statement, and we're going to be able to look at all the charges, because again, there are charges on your billing statement that will not be added by our office, but we are responsible for collecting on those charges. We also implement the payment and refund schedule, and I'll go over some of this later on during the slides. We maintain our online services through EZPAY. Again, I'll be going over that later on in the presentation. And then we also process refunds. Again, we'll go more into detail on some of this stuff. So you can go ahead and move on to the next slide. So all new incoming students to UT Dallas have the opportunity to choose between 2 tuition rate plans. Now let me explain this first. UT Dallas uses what's called tuition plans. If you've ever been to another university, sometimes they use what's called a per credit hour rate, which just basically means that if you're in 10 credit hours and it's $1,000 per credit hour, then you're going to do $1,000 times 10 credit hours, and it's $10,000. That's not how we do our tuition. We use rate plans, the tuition rate plans, and the easiest way to explain it is that it's a set rate for a set number of hours. So you may look at 1 credit hour and it may be 1 rate, and then you go down to 10 hours and it's going to be a rate that's not 10 times 1 credit hour. I know that's sounds a little complicated. Again, sometimes people get confused on how the rate plans work. I am going to show you a rate plan, so then maybe you can understand a little bit more about how the tuition rate plans work. There is a comparison online so that you can go in, actually look at the 2 plans. You can also see the actual rates for the incoming spring semester. So our 2 rate plans are the variable tuition rate. That one is set to change every year. So it's good for 1 academic year. So it starts in the fall. It's fall, spring, and summer. And at the end of the summer session, a brand new variable rate will begin. So for the next coming fall semester. So as an incoming student for the spring semester, this rate plan would only be good for you for the spring and summer. And then you would start a new rate plan at the beginning of the fall session. It basically only locks that in for that 1 academic year, and it can change each year. And it's usually about 3%, 3 to 6% every year is the increase. Then we also have the guaranteed tuition plan, and that one locks tuition rates in for 4 consecutive years. So basically, whatever you pay this incoming spring session would be the same rate that you would pay for the next 4 academic years. So a question that I get asked a lot is, if I choose the guaranteed plan, does that mean that I have to pay every semester that I'm at UT, or every semester, even if I'm not enrolled? Because they think 4 years, I pay for 4 years up front, and I have to pay every semester. That is not correct. You only pay for the semesters that you are enrolled at UT Dallas. So if you're not enrolled for a semester, that does not mean you still have to pay the tuition. So even though the guaranteed rate locks it in for 4 years, you only pay for semesters that you are enrolled at UT Dallas. And this plan is designed to help families that are on a budget, or students who are on a budget, to help them know exactly what they're going to pay each time that they are enrolled at UT Dallas for whatever amount of credit hours they're enrolled in. Again, you can look at the comparison. You do have a choice to make. So it is going to be your decision. Once you look at the comparison, you'll receive an email telling you that you need to select a tuition plan. And the deadline to select that tuition plan is December 31st for incoming spring 2022 students. You can go on to the next slide. So as I said, students that are eligible to make a selection will receive an email, and it will notify them that the tuition plan choice is available. When you log into your Orion student account, you should see a service indicator, which is also known as a hold. You'll see a hold on your account, and then you'll also see a to-do list item, and that'll appear in your Student Service Center. Once you click on the to-do list item, it's going to take you to a screen, and it's going to give you two options. You're going to either choose I choose the variable tuition plan, or I choose the guaranteed tuition plan. And once you do that, once you make your selection, the service indicator will be removed, and so will the hold. The service indicator will also be removed from your account once the deadline has passed to make a decision. So once December 31st comes, if you haven't made an active decision, then that hold will come off of your account, and so will that to-do list item. Students with this service indicator will remain on the variable tuition plan if no active decision is made. So if you forget, if you decide you don't want to go in and make a selection, we are going to pick a plan for you, and you will remain on the variable tuition rate, which means that you'll be locked into that rate for 1 year, and each year it could increase, and it will increase. So go ahead and go to the next slide, please. This is just an example of our tuition plan. You can see this on our website. Again, this is actually the one for this academic year. So these are the rates that the way you read it is you can see the credit hours on the far left-hand side. You go down to the number of credit hours that you're going to be in, and then you look at the top and you can see, are you a resident or a non-resident? And so we're going to assume non-resident on this one. And so then you would look, are you a graduate or an undergraduate? And then you would go on that column, and then you would just look down that column and find the number of hours and then find the rate. And as you can see how it starts out a larger amount for 1 hour, and then at the more credit hours that you take, the cheaper each credit hour becomes. So the first hour always seems to be the more expensive credit hour, and then, like I said, each credit hour becomes cheaper as you add them on. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide. Again, this can be found at on our website, and they are available, the guaranteed and the variable. I just happened to share the variable one with you. So we do have some students that may need a tuition estimate. Maybe they have a sponsor that they need to give a statement to, or they're trying to secure a loan. We do have our statements and our estimates available. We calculate tuition about 6 to 8 weeks prior to the beginning of each term. So if you were to go and register, let's say you registered today, your bill's not going to be available yet. We do that around, again, 6 to 8 weeks prior to the beginning of the term. Sometimes, like I said, we know that you may need to get a statement or get an estimate. So you can do a tuition estimate. Currently, admitted students can obtain an estimate of their tuition and fees from their Orion self-portal. So you can go in and actually do an estimate on your own and actually print that out and submit that to the lender or your sponsor, whoever it may be that needs that. And then when the billing statements are available, once we calculate the tuition, you can actually go into your Students Center, your Bursar account, and just click on Account Statements, and that's going to be the official statement. Now remember, the first one I mentioned is just an estimate. So you're going to put in how many hours that you plan on taking, if you're going to be living on campus or you're going to be living off campus. It's going to ask you several things, and you're going to be putting that information in. We're not going to be the one putting that information in for you. It's not going to pull directly from your student account. So just make sure that if you're doing an estimate, that you know exactly what information you need to submit. Again, once the billing statement is available, then that's going to be the actual bill that you can submit that has the number of hours that you're in already calculated. So again, the first one's an estimate, and then the second one that I'm talking about is the actual billing statement once we calculate tuition. Go ahead and move on. So for scholarship recipients, all university scholarships will be applied directly to the student account. So if you're receiving a scholarship, from a department, what's going to happen is it's going to go through the financial aid office, and then the financial aid office is going to disperse that to your student account. If you're receiving a scholarship of $1,000 or more, that would qualify you for the resident tuition rate. So what you're going to see on your account, you're still going to see that you're being charged the non-resident rate. However, you'll see a separate credit that will post to the student account that waives the difference between the non-resident and the resident. So it'll show up on your billing statement as an actual waiver. So again, you'll see tuition non-resident rate, then you'll see a waiver for resident tuition, and then once you subtract that, that should be equal to the resident rate. All scholarship recipients receive an extended deadline each semester. So you would follow, if you're receiving the scholarship, you would follow the financial aid recipient deadline. So when you look at your payment and refund calendar, you would follow the financial aid recipient deadline. Scholarship recipients are expected to check their EZPAY accounts to verify that the scholarships are posted to your account before the payment deadline. There are times that maybe you received a scholarship late and the department that's giving you the scholarship has not notified the financial aid office. So maybe the financial aid office has not dispersed it to your account, and the payment deadline is coming up soon. So it's very important that you pay attention to your student account, making sure that you see that the scholarship is posted by the deadline. I know that sometimes students assume they're receiving something and they assume that it's on there, and then they're receiving notifications from our office saying, your payment deadline's approaching, please pay your student account, please contact financial aid if you're expecting financial aid. If you're receiving those notifications from our office, that means that there is something wrong and that something has not posted to your account. If you're assuming that you're getting something that's paying off your tuition and you're receiving those notifications, it's very, very important that you check your UTD email and look for those notifications from our office about our payment deadline. Payment is expected to be made after the scholarship and waiver has posted. So if you know you're getting it, check your account, follow through, follow up, make sure it gets put on there, and then once it's posted, then you need to make your payment, the remaining payment. Again, if the payment deadline is approaching, you may not be able to wait. You may end up having to, excuse me, you may end up having to set up some kind of a payment plan until your scholarship gets posted. So again, you never want to disregard our notifications from our office about payment deadline. You always want to follow up on your scholarships and funding that is supposed to be coming through. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So our payment refund calendar is posted out on our website for every semester. You should be able to see our payment and refund calendar for this coming spring session. It is out online. Some of the things that you're going to find on that calendar, you're going to find estimated dates for us generating the bills each statement. How I was mentioning that we do those about 6 to 8 weeks prior to the semester beginning. You should be able to see that on the academic calendar, the exact date or the approximate date that we're going to be doing that. You can see the payment deadlines, as I mentioned, late payment fees. So what's going to happen if I pay late? You're also going to see our payment plan options and the payment plan due date. So if you're wondering about some of our payment plan options, you can see those on our payment refund calendar, and it'll also show you the dates that those payments would have to be made if you're on one of those payment plans. Once you set up a payment plan, sometimes students don't think to go back into their payment plan and look, and it's really easy access to go onto that payment refund calendar to look at those dates. Also, you can find the refund schedule for dropping or withdrawing from courses, and I will go into a little bit more detail about that and our payment plans in another slide. So our spring 2022 payment deadline for regular registration is going to be January 6th. So all students will follow this deadline unless you are receiving some type of financial aid from the university. So January 6th, if you're not receiving any type of financial aid from UT Dallas, that does not include funding outside of UT Dallas. So if you have a sponsor or if you are getting a loan that's not going through UT Dallas, something that has to be sent to us, you need to follow the January 6th payment deadline. If you are receiving a scholarship that's coming through the UT Dallas Financial Aid Office, as I had mentioned, like with the departmental scholarships, or if you're taking out some kind of a private loan that comes through our financial aid office. I know there are some loans. You can contact financial aid for more information regarding those loans, but there are loans that will come through the financial aid office that are for international students. So those students would follow the January 20th deadline. So anything that you're getting and it's coming through our financial aid office, you can follow the January 20th deadline. And please verify every semester that you believe that you should be receiving that financial aid extension. Just please verify that you see that every semester on your student account. That would show up under your service indicators or your holds. You would see a positive, because not all holds are bad. You know, sometimes people think that the students think that all holds are bad. Well, there are some good holds. This would be one of the good holds. That prevents you from getting dropped for non-payment on the regular payment deadline and extends you out to the financial aid deadline. And go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So here's some of the services that we offer in our EZPAY system. You can log into EZPAY. Once you're into your Orion account, or you go to our website, there's actually a link where you can just click on, you can see here on the slide, the one for students. You can click on that and it'll take you to the EZPAY website. You can make your payment online through EZPAY. You can view your billing statement as well. So I said you can pull up a billing statement in your Orion Student Service Center, but here you can also view a billing statement. You can view the most recent billing statements that we've sent you, because we will send you notifications telling you that you have a new billing statement. And when you get that email, you can actually go here into EZPAY and look at that. You can set up direct deposit. So direct deposit would be if we owe you money, if we're sending you money back, but you would have to have a U.S. bank account. So you would go online to EZPAY, you'd put in that U.S. bank account, and then anytime we owed you funding, it could be sent directly to your U.S. bank account. Now, we do mail checks, so if we owe you money, but it only goes to a U.S. address. So you want to make sure that if we owe you any funding, the easiest way is to do direct deposit. And I think I have a little bit more about direct deposit on another slide. So you can also add an authorized user. So if you have a parent or a grandparent or maybe a friend or a close family member that you want them to be able to view your bill, you would want to go ahead and set them up as an authorized user. You can do that in EZPAY. You just click on the link that says add authorized user once you're logged in, and then you'll put their email address in there, and then they'll get an email telling them how to set up their own username. You never want to provide your username and your password to anyone else. If they're able to log into EZPAY as you, then they can also log into other areas of your UT Dallas, your Orion, your student, your e-learning. You know, they could see your grades. There's all kinds of things that they can get into with your user information. So you never want to share that with anyone else. You want to set them up as an authorized user just so they can go in and see your bill, maybe make payment on your behalf. Also, you can set up the installment plan, and again, I'll go over some of that in a later slide, what the installment plan is, but you would set that up in EZPAY. And again, you use your net ID and your password to log into EZPAY, so it would be the same user information that you get into your Galaxy and Orion account. You can go ahead and move on. So some of the payments that are offered in EZPAY, we do take credit cards. It has to be a MasterCard, American Express, Discover. We do not take Visa cards. So if you have a Visa card, you would not be able to use that at the university through EZPAY. Also, we take electronic checks. Again, this would have to be a U.S. bank account. You could go on. There is no fee to use an electronic check, but there is a fee to use a credit card. So if you use a credit card, we do not take credit cards in person. So if you were to try to come to our window when we are open, currently our windows are not open, but when we are open, if you tried to come up and make a payment of your tuition using a credit card, we would tell you that you need to go online and do that through EZPAY. We do take check payments at the window. Again, currently we're not taking any payments at our window right now because we are closed for in-person assistance, but I cannot guarantee that that will be the same in spring when you're on campus. We may be open during that time. I have not heard. So at this time, we are not accepting any in-person payments, but again, we may do that in the spring. We don't take cash payments. So if you try to pay your tuition in cash at our window, we don't accept cash. So, and it's very unsafe to carry that amount of cash around anyway. So we prefer that you either bring, if you're going to bring a demand draft, you could do that, or you could bring a travel card and use that online or something like that. Again, payments made by demand draft can be made out to the university. Please allow 3 weeks for the payment to be received and posted to your account. So if you're sending something that's mailed in, please give it time. So if our payment deadline is January the 6th and you decide on the 4th that you need to pay and you need to mail that payment in, the likelihood of that getting to our office is very, very slim. So you want to make sure you allow time for any kind of payment that you're going to be mailing to our office. You want to make sure that you give that plenty of time because it has to go through the mailing system, and then once it gets to the university, it takes a little time to get to our office, and then us posting it to your account. So again, it can take a little time to get those to posted to your account. You can go ahead and move to the next slide, please. We do take international wires. We do not provide our banking and routing information to students to make international wire payments. We actually use a company called Flywire. Maybe you've heard of them before. They're a very reliable company, and they work directly with the university to do your international wire payments. To do that, to set that up, you would just log into your Galaxy using your NetID and password, and then you would go to your self-service portal, and then Student Center, Bursar account. A lot of the things that I mentioned earlier on, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go to your self-service, you're going to go to your Student Center, and then you're going to go to your Bursar account. And so from there, that's where you would find, a variety of different things. Well, in this case, for the Flywire payments, you would go to payment options and then click on Flywire, and it will take you to their website. So it's going to redirect you over to their website. So it'll look like you're going off of UT Dallas, and that's okay because that's what we want you to do. The new window will open and you'll create a Flywire account. And if you already have a Flywire account, then you're just going to log into your existing account, and then you're going to enter your payment details, and then that'll give you the instructions will be provided to complete that transfer. So if you've never done that before, we can always assist you. Again, you can call our office or email us if you have any questions about making that payment. In the event that you're unable to secure your funds by January 6th, or January 20th if you're a financial aid recipient, you may want to consider using our short-term loan. That's done in Galaxy. So I'm going to go over, I believe it's on the next slide, I'll be going over some of our payment options. So you may want to consider using a short-term loan if you think that your international payment is not going to be here, or your wire will not be here by our payment deadline. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. So as I mentioned, we have 2 payment options that will extend your payment deadline. So when I tell you that your payment deadline is January 6th or January 20th, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have everything paid in full. Because for us, if you're on a payment plan, that's considered paid. Even though you're on a payment plan, what it does is it basically is extending your payment deadline. So technically you would have met the payment deadline of January 6th or January 20th if you are on one of our payment plans. So we have 2 payment plan options. The one that you can sign up for in EZPAY is the installment plan. And basically what that does, it takes all of your tuition fees, housing, insurance, anything that's on your student bill. It's going to take that and it's going to divide it into 4 payments. The first payment is going to be due at the time of setup. So let me just give you a quick example. So let's say I'm going to go with a very easy one to do here. So let's say everything together is $10,000, and then you're going to set up the installment. It's going to take that and divide it by 4, so that'd be $2,500 per payment, and it's going to ask for the first payment up front at that time, and then you would owe $2,500 for each of the next 3 payments. If you have any financial aid applied to your account when you set the installment plan up, it's always going to take that off the very first payment. So it's not, when you do the installment plan and it divides it into 4 payments, it's not going to just take your remaining balance after your scholarship. It's going to take all of your balance and divide it by 4, and then take the financial aid off of the first payment. So let's say you do have a $1,000 scholarship for the semester. It's going to, let's just use the same $10,000 example. So the $10,000 divided into 4, that would be $2,500 per payment. And then you have a $1,000 scholarship that's going to come off that very first payment. So your first payment would only be $1,500, excuse me, $1,500. And then the remaining ones would still be $2,500. Again, I know that can be confusing. Some students think it's only going to take the remaining balance. So if they've made a Flywire payment that came in and it was $5,000 toward their balance, it thinks that it's only going to take the $5,000 and divide it by 4, if we're using that same $10,000 example. Again, I just went with something very basic and easy to do the math. So, anyways, that's how the installment works, and you can set that up in EZPAY. There is a $25 enrollment fee to set that up, and you can see the payment due dates that I have listed here. Those are the correct due dates for the spring semester. Now, the short-term loan is a little bit different. It's different than a student loan. It's basically just a payment plan that extends your deadline about 60 days past our census date. And so what it would do is if you have, a balance of your tuition, it's only going to include tuition. It's not going to include housing. It's not going to include meal plans or anything like that, student insurance. That's still going to have to be paid by the deadline. This is only going, the short-term loan is only going to extend your tuition and fees and your mandatory fees. There is no down payment for that. So let's just say, you have $15,000 in tuition and fees. It would put that on the short-term loan. There would be no down payment on that. And then the due date for that for the spring session would be March the 6th. So anyways, there's no down payment on the tuition. Again, you would still have to pay your student insurance. You would still have to pay your housing, your meal plan, any other charges that are on your account. You would still have to pay that by the payment deadline. So if you're able to, make some sort of down payment, sometimes the installment plan is better. And it is a little bit more expensive to set up the short-term loan since there is no down payment required. If you are receiving a private loan from the, that's going to go through our financial aid office, sometimes that's not available by our payment deadline, depending on how long it takes for the lender to get the loan to the university. So a lot of times the students end up having to take out the short-term loan just to wait for their loan money to come in. And so this is a good option for students that, only have tuition and fees on their account and maybe student insurance, no housing, meal plan, something like that. If you're not living on campus or you don't have a meal plan, this one's really good for you. Because again, there's not that 25% that's due up front. Okay, you can go on to the next slide. I mentioned earlier about our payment and refund calendar, where you can find the dates for dropping and withdrawing from a class. It's important to note that the University of Texas at Dallas is a state university, so we do have to follow the state of Texas regulations. So they do put deadlines on when a student can drop and receive a refund from for dropping those classes. Dropping a course and completely withdrawing does not have the same financial impact. So students with financial aid or scholarship should always contact the financial aid office to find out what's going to happen to their financial aid before they withdraw from any classes or drop any classes. If you're enrolled in full-time and let's say you're receiving some financial aid and it's based on full-time enrollment, you want to make sure that you falling below full-time isn't going to adjust the aid, because that, you know, you could owe money back, or you could owe some tuition. There may be some adjustments there. Dropping a course means that you're still going to be enrolled for that semester. So maybe you're 9 hours and you decided you didn't want to take a class, and so you drop down to 6 hours. That's just dropping a class. Completely withdrawing from the university is a little different. That means you withdrew from every class that you were enrolled in for that semester. It doesn't necessarily mean that you don't plan to come back to UT Dallas. It just means that you're no longer enrolled in that semester. So when we talk about complete withdrawal, sometimes students can think that that means that they're not ever going to enroll in UT Dallas again. That just, again, it just means that you are dropping all classes for that one semester. And so it's important to follow the deadlines for dropping and withdrawing. So if you're just dropping a class, usually you can have all the way through the census day to make that decision if you're going to drop a course. So again, you're 9 hours, you want to go down to 6 hours, maybe there's a class you're not sure about. You can have all the way to census day to do that. However, if you're going to completely withdraw from all of your classes for that semester, you need to do that before the first day of class. If you do not do that before the first day of class, you will still owe a percentage of your tuition. So as of the official first day of class, even if your class doesn't start on the first day, so let's say the classes start on a Monday and maybe your class isn't till Tuesday, it's whatever the official first day of class for the university is. So you would have, if classes start on Monday, then that Sunday, the day before, you would need to drop all of your classes not to be charged a percentage. And you can see the percentages here as you go down. And then after the 20th class day, there is no refund for completely withdrawing. On the dropping, I will say that it's either when you're dropping a class, you either get 100% back or you get nothing back. So if you drop a class prior to census day, you will get 100% back for that class. If you drop after census day, then you're going to owe 100% for that class. So that one's kind of an all or nothing kind of thing. But when you're completely withdrawing from all of the classes for that semester, you do have a little bit more time before you'll be charged 100%. Again, if you ever have any questions, we prefer that you contact us and ask us before you make that decision, so we can let you know in advance what's going to happen, how much you're going to owe, something like that. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. So I did mention that we do refunds in our office. So if an account has been paid in excess, or it's, you know, paid over, so, you know, your tuition's $15,000 and you have a loan that comes in, and let's say it's $20,000 and we owe money back to you. That's what I mean when I say a credit balance, because then you would have it would show up as a negative balance on your statement. So there's an example there, like negative $550. If you see like a negative number, that means we actually owe you money. And credit balances usually begin being processed about 2 to 4 days after you see the credit. That's when we'll start processing the refunds. Students with a U.S. bank account can set up the direct deposit, as I had mentioned before when I was talking to you about EZPAY. Usually you can have your direct deposit within 1 to 3 business days. Again, checks take a little bit longer, usually about 3 weeks. We'll process them at the same time, but they take a little bit longer to process and mail out. Again, it will only go to a U.S. address. And then students that make payment through Flywire actually have the option to be refunded through Flywire. So if that's an option that you want to take advantage of, you can contact us and let us know, hey, I overpaid. Maybe you paid through Flywire, like I said, and you paid more than what you needed, or you ended up dropping one of those classes before census day and now we owe you money back. Contact us and we can get that sent back to you through Flywire, because that may be the quickest way for you to get your money if you don't have a direct deposit. Maybe you haven't set up a U.S. address, because we will only mail out checks to the U.S. addresses. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. So these are just some frequently asked questions. We're almost done. I know that we're going to be taking some of your questions, but here's some questions that we get asked a lot. So how do you know which tuition plan to use? One of the things that I like to tell students is to think about how long they're actually going to be at the university. The guaranteed plan is good for 4 years, which means, like I said, you'll be paying the same rate for 4 years for whatever number of hours you're enrolled in that semester. But sometimes you won't see a cost savings because the variable does start out a little bit cheaper, because again, we're guaranteeing the other rate for 4 years. So if you look at the variable rate, it actually starts out a little bit cheaper than the guaranteed rate. So you have to ask yourself, am I going to be here long enough to see a cost savings, or is it better for me to just do the variable since it does start out cheaper? You know, if you're only going to be here, maybe you're in a graduate program and it's 2 years, maybe the variable is better for you. If you think if you're an undergraduate and you're going to be here for a while, maybe you're going to do your finish your undergraduate, and then you're going to do your graduate degree after that, then maybe the guaranteed's better, because you would end up seeing a cost savings on the guaranteed rate. So again, it's still your decision. We will default you into the variable if you don't make a decision, but just think about how long you plan to stay and kind of look at those tuition plans, do the comparison. Can you tell me how much I owe before I'm registered? We can't tell you how much you're going to owe before you're registered. So if you email our office and ask how much am I going to owe if I'm enrolled in 7 hours or whatever, we're probably going to tell you to go do that estimate, as I had mentioned in one of the previous slides, that you can go do that estimate for yourself in your Galaxy account. Can you provide a fee statement? That is, again, in your Orion Student Center, you can pull all that up on your own, print that out, provide that to whoever. You can attach it to an email, whatever you want to do. If you email us, normally we're not going to send you, unless you're having issues with your Galaxy, we're not going to actually send you an actual statement. Can I pay my tuition in cash? No, you can't do that. You can't pay your tuition in cash. We did used to have a lot of people that would pay in cash and bring a lot of cash up there, but we are not accepting cash. My demand draft or wire transfer is more than my tuition charges. Will I be refunded? Yes. If you bring a demand draft, we will wait for it to process, make sure we get all the funds, and then we will refund you in one of the ways that I had mentioned on our refund slide. Do I pay for classes before my scholarship is posted? We prefer that you don't pay before your scholarship is posted, unless the payment deadline is approaching and you're about to get dropped for non-payment, and the scholarship is taking a while. That would be the only reason we would suggest that you pay, because otherwise we're going to have, once the scholarship posts, then we're going to have to refund you that. And again, if you don't have one of those options set up, it could take a little while for you to get your refund. When is my tuition payment deadline? Again, think about if you have a scholarship, if you have financial aid coming through the financial aid office. If you do, the 20th, January 20th would be your deadline for any financial aid that comes through our university, and then January 6th for those who do not have any financial aid. Let's see. Why do I have a hold on my account? Well, there's a lot of reasons that you could have a hold on your account. Sometimes people will contact us and that's not even our hold. There's a lot of departments, academic departments, that'll put holds on your account for registration, or maybe you need to contact them for a degree audit, or maybe your registrar's office has a hold on your account for they may need a transcript from another university. So there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons in our office you could have a hold. You have a balance that's past due or something like that. So there's a lot of reasons why you could have a hold. Not all holds, again, are bad, but definitely contact that department. If you see a hold that's from a department, please contact your advisor or the department that put the hold. How do I get the student insurance waived? So if you have your own insurance, you can provide that to the Student Health Services. They will let us know to waive your tuition. Sometimes students will come directly to us and ask us or tell us, hey, I don't want to have to pay insurance, or I don't want your insurance. We don't have that option to take that off. That's one of those charges, kind of like I was mentioning before with the housing and meal plan, where it's not really our charge. So we don't have the option to waive that for you. You do have to go through Student Health Services to have that waived. And then there are some things that you would have to do to provide them information before they would waive it. Can I drop a class after the classes have started? Yes, you can drop a class after the classes have started. Just as I had mentioned, if you're just dropping a class, you actually have through the census day, which our census day for the full term session is January the 26th. So you actually kind of, have that time to decide if all of the classes are working out for you. And then we're going to go over just a few action items, and I'm going to speed through them real quick. Can you go ahead and go to the next slide? Those should be the action items. Okay, so these are some things you need to think about and do. You need to choose your tuition plan, update your address as soon as you have an updated address in the U.S., update that as soon as possible. Become familiar with the academic and payment and refund calendar, as I mentioned, where all those deadlines and all that stuff is. Establish a U.S. bank account, so when you get here, just, you know, try to meet with some other organizations maybe that are in the same, and I think tomorrow maybe be able to give you some clarification on how to do that, but we do suggest you set up that U.S. bank account, set up a refund profile once you have that U.S. bank account, check your EZPAY account to ensure your scholarships are posted. As we'll do that, they won't start doing that till after the first day of class, so you can't do that yet, but once or around the first day, not after the first day, around, you know, maybe a day or two before, just somewhere around the first day of class. Watch for that scholarship to get posted if you're expecting that. Check your UT Dallas email account often, and then allow 7 days for Flywire payments to be received by the university, because even if you go do that, it is electronic, but it still takes time for us to be notified that that payment is going to be coming through. So those are just some of my suggestions. I know I went over a lot of information. Again, we are going to take some questions today, and then if you need something specifically related to you, like you need us to look at something on your behalf, like on your account, then we definitely would ask that you email us directly, because I will not be able to answer things that are directly related to your personal student account on this session.
Thank you, Lisa. And Tamara will go ahead and start open the chat so students can ask specific questions. May I take the opportunity just to add a clarification for students? We know that you're coming from different academic systems. So the concept of hours and that, how does that relate to tuition payment might not be clear to you. So I would like just to clarify, Lisa, of course, show you the cost per hour and how to calculate tuition. And you might be wondering how many hours each class has. In general, we can say that an average class will have 3 credit hours, or sometimes 4, depending if it's a lab or if it is any other type of class. So when you are working on estimating your tuition, please think about the number of classes and how many hours, credit hours, each class has. So you might go ahead and calculate more accurately your tuition. That's all I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that, because that is something that is true. You know, it's not 1 hour is one class. So it's, you know, usually 3 to 4 hours is a class. So yes, thank you definitely for clarifying that for us.
Okay, thank you so much, Lisa Davis, for your presentation, and Leticia as well. As Leticia mentioned, the chat is now open since we have come to the end of the prepared content. So please go ahead and post the questions that you have into the chat. If you post a question into the chat, we will go ahead and read it out so that you can get your question answered by Lisa. However, if you have not heard your question right, it could be that we have already answered it, or we have not gotten to it as yet, so you only need to post your question once. Okay, so let me get right into it, because I know the questions can pile up in the chat for this particular topic. So we do have a question. It says, may I choose to pay through credit card from my sponsor? And then it also says, may I also look at the tuition fees chart again?
Sure. Okay, so if you want to make a payment by credit card, you can use a credit card in the EZPAY system. If your sponsor is allowing you to use that card, you can go in and do that on the student portal. So it's not going to prevent you from using a card that does not have your name on it. So yes, if your sponsor is providing a credit card that's a MasterCard, Discover, American Express, it has one of those logos on it, and then yes, you can use their card in your EZPay portal. And then I know that you wanted to see the tuition rates on the slide again. Those are available on our website. If you go to UT Dallas Bursar office, I usually just go to UT Dallas, and then in that little search bar, I just put in Bursar office, and then one of the tabs says tuition, and there's one that says tuition rates. And then it'll show you the rate plans, and it'll show you the variable plan, and it'll also show you the guaranteed plan. So you can actually view those actual rates on our website. And then there's also on the first page of that same section, it actually has a comparison. So it'll show you year one variable rate and year one guaranteed rate, and then year two, and it'll go down for 4 years. And then at the bottom, it'll show you the cost savings on whichever plan had the lower rate for those 4 years.
Okay, thank you. And I also just posted in the chat just now the link to the Bursar office, to the section that has tuition plans and rates. So please read through carefully. And as Lisa mentioned, if you do have any questions, you can reach out to the Bursar's office. Okay, we have another question here for you, Lisa. It says, which tuition plan should be preferred by a PhD student?
Again, that's going to be your decision. I mean, we can't tell you which plan to be on. However, you have to think about how long you're going to be in your program. I would say that right now, and this is just me being honest, and I've said the same thing in some of our other orientations, that if you notice that the variable rate is a little bit cheaper, quite a bit cheaper than the guaranteed plan right now. And even if you look at the comparison, just for a resident student, not a non-resident student, I haven't looked at the comparison on that. But right now, it seems that the variable rate is actually being cheaper, even when we increase, even at a 3, I think we estimated a 4% increase, and it looked like our variable rate was actually still cheaper after the 4 years. So, you might want to, again, it's definitely your choice. I can't tell you which one to choose. You definitely want to go on there and look at those tuition plans and compare based on the number of hours you're in and based on your residency status and your grade level. So you want to look, if you're a graduate student, that would fall in the PhD, the graduate, and then the non-resident. So you kind of want to compare those rates based on the number of hours that you think that you're going to be in, and just look at it for yourself, because we really can't tell you which one to do. But that's just my suggestion. So
that's great. And I did just privately answer a question, but I'll just go ahead and just kind of announce it publicly. So someone had posted, they had a question about a JSOM scholarship, and they wanted to know when that decision would be made. So my response to that was, since that is a scholarship that's related to a particular department and office, for them to contact the administrators of those scholarships directly. So correct. Lisa will not be able to know every single school and every program that we have and all the different scholarships that they have and all the deadlines and when the scholarship announcements will be made. So that is something that you can get a better answer for if you reach out to whoever it is that communicated with you about the scholarship, or whoever you sent in the scholarship to. Those would be the best people to reach out to, and then they can give you, a better answer. Because correct. The school is very large and there are so many things going on. Okay, so here's another question. It says, as mentioned in the slide, application does not accept Visa card. So even if we open a US bank account, which credit or debit card should we opt for?
Yeah, so if you are getting a US bank account and their debit card is Visa, it will not be accepted in the portal. But if it's a debit card, you also can use your checking account number and your routing number for that bank account. So you still would be able to use the bank account. You just would not, if they give you a Visa debit card, you just would not be able to use the debit card in the EZPay system because it has a Visa logo on it. again, you would be able to use the checking account at no charge. You could put in the routing number and the checking account number, and you could use that in the EZPAY system coming from the same bank account. So, and if you have questions about once you open your account and you want to start making payments using your U.S. bank account, give us a call or email us, and we can kind of, and hopefully we may be open in the spring, and you may be able to come to our window, and we could take you to one of the computers, and we can show you what information to put in for your routing number and your checking account number. Sometimes students do get confused, and they put their debit card number in as their checking account number, and that will not go through the system correctly when it tries to go take the payment from the bank account. But we can always help you and show you, look at your information and show you what information you need to put in there with your help.
Great. Okay, here's another question. It says, I registered, and by the way, actually, before I continue, I did drop some helpful links when I opened the chat. So links related to this particular topic and other links in general. So if you're looking for questions that might not be related to this topic, I know sometimes students have those, just scroll to the very top at the chat and you should be able to access those links. Okay, the next question from William says, I registered for 5 classes, but my tuition is not showing a balance and I don't seem to have a hold on my account. What should I do?
So you're not, if you're registered for the spring semester already, the spring 2022 semester, we have not calculated those bills at this time. So like I said, it's usually about, I say 6 to 8 weeks. It's more like 6 weeks. I think if I'm looking at my calendar correctly, our estimated date is going to be December the 4th. So December the 4th is when we plan to have the bills and the tuition calculated. Until we actually calculate the tuition for that term, you're not going to see a bill. You're not going to see any charges on your account yet because we have not done those yet. If you're needing a statement or an estimate to provide for your lender or your sponsor, then that's when you would use that tuition estimate that's in the your Orion self portal. So no one should see any charges for the spring at this time.
Okay, thank you. Here's another question. It says, if we take a loan, I'm not sure if they're referring to the short-term loan that you had mentioned, or this is some other type of loan that maybe they're securing from another place. It says, if we take loans, can the banks send the funds directly through Flywire?
I actually do not know the answer to that question. I believe the money has to, this is from my understanding, is that the money has to be in your account. So whatever your account is, wherever the lender that you're getting, let's say you're getting it from your home country and you're borrowing the money there, and the lender puts it into your account, and then you would make the payment through Flywire. That's my understanding. Flywire may be able to actually explain that more to you, what their process is, but you would have to be able to put that information into Flywire, the account information. So you're probably not going to have the lender's account information. So it's probably going to need to be in your bank account or whatever account you use to pay for your Flywire. If you are taking a loan, if you're waiting to take a loan in the U.S., again, there is, I know of one lender, financial aid would be able to give you more information, but I know there is one lender that does for sure provide loans to international students that do not have to be U.S. citizens, and that does come through the financial aid office, and they would send that directly to the school. It would not go through Flywire at all. It would come directly to a certification would come directly to our financial aid office. And then our financial aid office would let the lender know, yes, they are a student here, here's how many hours they're enrolled in. And then that lender would disperse the money directly to the financial aid office. And then that would be posted from the financial aid office to your student account. But As of right now, I know of one lender that does that. And if you're interested in that, you can reach out to the financial aid office. Their email is financial-aid@utdallas.edu. And I don't know if you want to share that. Just, because like I said, I do know that there is one that students usually will use, and it does come directly through the financial aid office.
Okay, thank you. And yes, I went ahead and just put that in the chat so students can access that information about that lender. Okay, here's another question. It says, if I transfer my fees from a local bank account in India, can I get the extra money refund back to a US account registered on EZPay?
If I'm understanding the question correctly, you're wanting to send money from a bank account, but it would be done through Flywire. So it's got to go through Flywire. It can't just be sent directly to UT Dallas. It has to be done through Flywire. So you're taking your money from a bank account in India. It goes through Flywire. Flywire disperses it to the university. And then as long as you have a direct deposit set up with a US bank account, then those extra funds would go into your US bank account. So the answer to that question is yes. As long as you follow the correct procedure of us receiving the funding, then yes, we could deposit that into a US bank account. Okay,
great. And just to kind of continue, there's another question. It says, if I want to pay my fees through the loan, through a loan, I guess I have secured from a bank in my country, then I should use Flywire, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Yes. Okay. So here's another Flywire question, and we just answered that. So this question says, I got into the MSBA cohort. Well, congratulations to you. The cost mentioned on the website for one credit is $15.28, but in the slide you mentioned that it costs $24.37. Can you please clarify the cost of one credit?
So where are you looking? I guess I'm unsure where they're looking for that cost. Are they looking on that program's website?
Let's see, but I guess so. I guess so. It says the cost mentioned on the website. So I guess I'm assuming it's the program's website.
Okay. So it depends on which, it depends on which plan they're going on. It depends on if they are, it definitely depends on which plan, because you have to remember this, that we have a new guaranteed plan every year. So for incoming students, there's a brand new guaranteed plan for 21-22. So students who started in 21, fall of 21, that was a new guaranteed plan. They'll be on that guaranteed plan for 4 years. But the students who came in 2020 fall had a different guaranteed plan. But the variable is the same variable all the way across. Does that make sense? So I don't know what plan they're using and when they put that out there. So that's probably maybe maybe they haven't updated their website. That's what I'm assuming, because again, students who came in fall of 20 started on a guaranteed plan for 4 years, and then students that came in fall of 21 and spring of 22 are on a different guaranteed plan. And the only one that's consistent is the variable rate plan. Each year we get a brand new variable rate plan, and whenever you come in, you're on the same variable rate plan as every other student on the variable plan. But the guaranteed plan is a new one every year. So I don't know. I could not tell you why. If it's not part of it could be part of the executive education program. I'm not sure if that's one of theirs or not, and they do have different tuition. So I really could not tell you why it's showing that. But I would use our tuition or call them and ask them why it states that.
Right. Yes. I think that's a great idea. If you reaching out to the particular program to, finding out, as you said, maybe if their website needs to be updated, but you can, you're checking with the Bursar office and then also checking with that particular program to make, to see how the data, correlates and which one might be the most up-to-date one. So,
yeah.
Okay, here's another question. It says, how and when can we choose a particular tuition plan? So I guess maybe they're wondering maybe at what part in the admission process are they able to choose a particular plan, whether it's the variable or the guaranteed?
So it's a one-time choice. You could actually start, as long as you're an admitted student, you should receive an email, and you can actually start from now until the 31st of December. But it's a one-time choice. So you don't do it every year. It's just a one-time choice as a brand new incoming student. Once you make your decision, that's your decision. It stays with that decision. So once you choose your plan, then that's the plan you're on the entire time that you're here at UT Dallas. So again, that is available starting on November 7th and then all the way through December 31st. If you have not received an email, you may check with our office and find out why you haven't received that email. It's usually once you're an admitted student, and you should not have to be registered yet.
Okay. Next question. I'm sure the answer to this may vary, but it says, how much time will a credit card payment take to reflect in your account? So I'm assuming, I'm not sure if they mean like in your credit card account when it will show up on your credit card statement, or I guess in your like Orion.
Yeah, so actually when you go into EZPAY to make that payment with the credit card, once it says that it's processed and you get a receipt, then you should be able to go to your EZPAY account and you should be able to see that. You should be able to go to your student account and see that payment. So it's the credit card payments go through fairly quickly. If you're using a web check, as I had mentioned before, like you're putting in your routing number and your checking account number from your US bank account, that will show immediately also, but that does take longer to come out of your bank account. So you may not see that out of your bank account right away. Usually takes about 5 business days to process for it to actually fully go through your bank account. Whereas if you're using a credit card or a debit card, usually you can see that pending in your bank account or on your credit card statement, not your statement, but if you log into your credit card account, you should see that at least in a pending status pretty much right away.
Okay, we have a next question. It says, I already have insurance and I don't need housing and meals. Should I choose an installment option?
It really depends on if you can make the 25% down payment. If you can, then it's probably going to benefit you to go ahead and do the installment because it's a $25 setup fee versus the short-term loan, which is going to be a 1.25% origination fee. So it's going to be 1.25% of your the total amount that you're putting into the short-term loan. So it can be more expensive to take out the short-term loan. And the reason for that is because we're not requiring any down payment up front. Where on the installment plan, we're actually making you put a percentage down up front. So if you have the 25%, then I would say do the installment. If you don't have the 25% and you just want to extend your payment deadline out to March where it's all due in one lump sum, then it would be better for you to do the short-term loan.
Okay, and if I could actually just kind of add a tip to that, the person mentioned that they already have insurance. Please make sure that you reach out to the Student Health Center. If you do already have an insurance coverage, that's fine, but you would need to complete a waiver, which means that you are just waiving that you do not want UT Dallas's insurance because you have one that meets or exceeds the standards that we have. So if you do already have insurance, don't just take for granted that it will be accepted by UT Dallas. Please reach out to the Student Health Center, and I have put their email in the chat actually, so you can reach out to them and do the process that's necessary to make sure that you have the appropriate health insurance coverage. Okay, here's another question. Okay, it says, I'm not sure if this is applicable to this topic. Let me find another one. Okay, it says, can I get a detailed guide for registering installment plan option on EZPAY? As in my profile, I get only options as electronic check and credit/debit card options. So,
Okay.
yes.
So it should say if you're looking at the EZPay account and you're logged in right now, at the top it should say payment plan. It should say payment plan at the top, and then you probably can't enroll in a payment plan right now because there's no tuition to enroll in a payment plan yet. So that's another reason you may not be able to see it right now. If you log in now and there's no tuition, you'll still get that pop-up box that has the option to use an electronic check and a credit card. But if there's no tuition, you're not going to get that option to do the payment plan. But it is listed at the top, at the very top. It says payment plan. But again, you may not be able to get that option until your tuition is actually available. So you won't be able to do that until after December the 4th. And usually we'll, once we put the tuition statements out, once we calculate the tuition, we usually will send you a billing statement right away. So once you get that first billing statement, then you know that you have that option to go out and set up that installment or the short-term loan, because we usually open that as soon as we start sending you a billing notification. So we're just once we calculate your tuition, we will send you something letting you know your tuition has been calculated. Hey, you have a bill out here. You can go view it in EZPay, and then that's when you can make your decision on what you want to do. And then again, you have those deadlines that gives you time to think about what you want to do.
Okay, and there was a question that I put in the chat, and I put the link to the financial, not the financial aid, but for the scholarship office. So there was a question asking about, can you share, all the scholarships that are available? So that actually is a different office that takes care of that. So I will put it again in the chat, and you can visit that website for the financial aid office and see the scholarships that they have. If you are curious to see if your program, the particular program that you're in, if they have any scholarships, then reaching out to your program advisor or your academic advisor, that's another option as well that you can do.
I will say this on that note is that if you contact financial aid about scholarships, I do a lot of orientations with financial aid, and one of the things that they usually will let everyone know is that their office doesn't actually award scholarships. Most of those come from departments. There's no general application for scholarships within the financial aid office. Most of them come from departments, so they're going to refer you to your department, or they'll send you, like Tamara said, that they're going to send you to a department website to show a list of scholarships, because financial aid, usually our financial aid office mainly deals with like federal aid, right, and then like transfer, right, like admit scholarships during being admitted, like transfer scholarships, things that are reviewed once you're coming in as a new student, that's like federal or transfer. Other than that, like other departmental scholarships, those are all going to come from the department. They don't actually have a general scholarship within their office.
Right. Okay. All right, here's another question. It says, does the monthly stipend provided by the university also fall under the category of financial aid. So this person is speaking about receiving some kind of a monthly stipend.
The stipends do go through the financial aid office, and as long as the financial aid office can see that that you're receiving some departmental funding, they will put that hold or that service indicator that extends the deadline to the 20th. If you want to verify, I would definitely, as it gets closer to you know, once we calculate your tuition and starts getting closer to the beginning of the semester, you probably want to reach out to the financial aid office and just verify that they have put that extension on your account based on that stipend. But usually anything that comes through the financial aid office will have that extension.
Okay, thank you. And I'm currently replying to someone in the chat, but I guess I can just go ahead and mention it. Someone is asking about the minimum number of courses that they need to take in one semester. So if you are an international student and you are unfamiliar with the minimum number of courses that you need to take, I'm not sure if you're referring to based on the immigration side of it to maintain your immigration status, depending on what type of visa you're on, or if it's minimum for something else. But if it's immigration wise, then I'm putting in the chat for you to reach out to the ISSO office, which is the office that can give you further instruction as to, because I don't know, a lot of our international students are graduate students, but we do have some that are undergraduate. So it depends on if you're graduate or undergraduate, the number of credit hours that you have to be in to be considered full-time, if that is what you're referring to. But the ISSO office would be the office that can advise you as to how to maintain your immigration status and the course load in terms of how many hours that you need to take regarding that. Lisa, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, not on that one, I don't.
Okay, here's another question. It says, it says, if my father is in the United States, can I claim in-state tuition plan for the next year?
So let me explain what resident and non-resident means. Actually, non-resident does not mean that you are an international student or you're not a resident of the U.S. Actually, non-resident, when it comes to the state of Texas, it means that you are not a resident of Texas. So somebody that lives in California and comes to UT Dallas is going to be charged the same rate as someone that lives in India. So they would both be considered non-resident students because when we're talking about residency, we're talking about a resident of the state of Texas. Since we are a state university, state funding, it's for the Texas students have the resident rate. So you have to be a resident of Texas to be getting resident rate. So if you have a parent that lives in Texas and is considered a resident of Texas, then you possibly may qualify for the resident rate. But that we don't determine residency. Our office does not determine residency. And so there is the registrar's office has a residency team, and if you have questions regarding your residency, you could contact them. I think their email is it residency@utdallas.edu?
I'm not sure. I know that
if you have questions, there's a residency questionnaire, and you can answer that questionnaire, and that can help you determine whether you would qualify as a resident or a non-resident. Again, resident means you're a resident of Texas. Non-resident means you're not a resident of Texas.
Yes, that's a very good point, and thank you so much for clarifying that, Lisa. That's kind of a loaded word. The word resident, it has many different meanings with that.
Yes. And I usually do mention that at the beginning of the session, and I'm glad somebody asked about it because I usually do try to explain that because it does make it sound like it's non-resident of the U.S. is paying that rate, but it's actually non-resident of Texas.
Right. Okay, let's see. Here's another question. It says, in the Bursar's office website, I could see a supplemental designated tuition fee. Could you please comment on this? Should we add this amount to the original tuition fee?
So the tuition that's on the tuition rate plan is the base tuition for the number of hours that you plan to register for. The supplemental tuition is actually class related. So if you are in a certain program, you will be charged specific class related fees. And that's what you're going to see at the bottom of the tuition plan. So if you're in School of Management, ECS, I don't know all of the ones, but there are class related fees. Those are specifically related to the class. So basically that program is charging an additional fee for whatever reason for those classes. And so yes, you would need to include that. When you're doing the estimate, it knows what program you're in, so usually it will go ahead and add those supplemental fees onto the estimate. And then, of course, once the billing statements are ready and we calculate the tuition, it will determine what your registration is and which classes will have that supplemental fee. You will see that as a separate line on your billing statement. So you would see the tuition line, which should match the tuition plan that you're on. That's the base tuition. And then you would see a separate line on your billing statement that would say whatever program you're in and the tuition that they're charging for those classes. And depending on your grade level, it could be, $100 a credit hour, $50 a credit hour, $80. It just depends on what program you're in. And that's per credit hour. So if you're in a 3-hour course and it's $100 per credit hour, that would be an additional $300 for that class. But that's specifically being charged by those programs.
Okay, thank you. All right, here is another question. It says the tuition fee, okay, is the tuition fee mentioned in the I-20 the same as the fees showing on the Bursar website? They're saying I'm finding some variation while I'm calculating manually. So I guess.
To be honest, I'm not sure how they calculate the one on the I-20. That would not be something that we know how they calculate. Okay. Sometimes if you're seeing a larger amount, it could be because they're adding maybe housing onto it or some other funding that they think that you're going to need while you're in the U.S. Other than that, I don't know how that is being calculated. Do you know where they would go tomorrow for that? Is that ISSO?
Yes, that's for ISSO. I do not know where they would be getting that information from, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, so ISSO would be the ones that could tell you what's being calculated when they're filling in that amount.
Yes, that is true. Okay, here's another question. It says, are international students who are non-residents, well, if you are an international student, you probably are a non-resident for the most part, I would say, but are international students who are non-residents eligible to apply for financial aid? So this is referring to, I guess, federal financial. Well, financial aid can be many things, right? It can be federal financial aid. Right.
So you would be eligible to apply for a loan, which would be through one of the lenders that lends money to international students. That would come through financial aid, as well as the departmental scholarships. Those are the only ones that I know of. The FAFSA is what students who are U.S. citizens, that they would do the FAFSA, and that's federal. That's federal aid, so that they could apply for federal aid. As of right now, I do not know what qualifies an international student to do a FAFSA. At this time, you probably would not qualify if you are not living in the U.S. If you are living in the U.S. or have already been in the U.S., you may want to contact financial aid and see if you're an eligible non-citizen, because there is such a thing as an eligible non-citizen, but you do have to meet certain requirements to be eligible. And also, if you're a resident, if you're considered a resident of Texas, even if you're not a U.S. citizen, there is something called a TAFSA, and financial aid office would be able to give you more information about the TAFSA, and that's for Texas residents only. But you do not have to be a U.S. citizen, you just have to be considered a Texas resident.
Okay, here's another question kind of similar to that. It says, what is the minimum time period to be considered a resident of Texas? I have been staying in Texas for about 6 months.
So that's definitely a question that needs to go through the residency office, since we do not determine students' residency. Even though our system charges the tuition, it's just based on the information that admissions puts in the system and the registrar's office, what they're putting in the system. I do know that it has to do with how long you've lived in Texas and established residency prior to attending the university. So you have to be in Texas for a certain amount of time before you start attending the university. So it can't be, so if it's let's say it's 12 months, you have to be in Texas for 12 months. It wouldn't be 12 months after you start attending the university. You've been in Texas for 12 months and now you're a resident student. It doesn't work like that. It has to be, you have to establish residency. Usually it's prior to attending the university. But again, I can't give you all the specific details because since I'm not the one who determines that, there is a residency questionnaire that's available on the registrar's office website.
Yes, and I just posted it in the chat. Hopefully I did. I just posted it in the chat. So for that particular question in regards to the residency requirement, please visit the website link that was just posted. That actually goes to the registrar's office, which is a different office than the Bursar office.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see, a different question that we have not answered as yet. Okay, this is an interesting question, and this is from William that says, I didn't get to choose my tuition plan. I don't know if I have a variable or guaranteed plan, and I don't have a hold on my account. So I'm not sure if the question is that how can they find out what plan they're on, because they actually didn't write a question. But they're saying that
maybe if you have not received an email yet, they may not have opened it for you to select. You will be on the variable if you do not select a tuition plan. If you currently do not have a hold, it could be because you are still going through the admissions process. Maybe you're not registered yet, something like that. So we just may have not started that process for you yet, but you will receive an email telling you that your tuition plan selection is open. Again, if you haven't gotten it yet, you can email us, and then I can have the person who actually sends out those notifications check into it and see why you have not received the notification yet. And so if you just email Bursar at UT Dallas, then we can make sure that gets to the right person, and then we can let you know when your selection would be open. It could be just something holding it up. Maybe if you haven't finished the admissions process, or there's something it has to let us know that you're an admitted student and that you're ready to be registered, basically.
Okay, here's a question. It says the MSBA Flex program, I guess, has a variable tuition by default, right?
There are executive education programs which are not part of our tuition plan. They have their own charges. So if you are in an executive education program, and I believe there are about 8 programs that are executive education, I do not know if that's one of them. It sounds like it may be. And if it is, then you would have your own, they would charge a tuition that would show up as whatever that program tuition is, and it would not be based on our tuition plan. So that could be another reason that you're not being asked to set up some students may not be asked to select a tuition plan because you're on a program that's part of the executive education. Usually those students have their own counselor or orientation. I don't know if they come to this orientation or not. I have not been told whether or not executive education students come to this orientation. Because again, their information is a little different than the information that I'm giving here today. So if you're in a specific program that's part of the executive education, then you would not follow that tuition plan.
Okay, thank you.
Again, I don't know if we have any of those students. I don't know if they're told about this orientation, or if everybody on this one is, not part of the executive, just regular tuition.
Yes, I'm actually not quite sure myself.
Yeah, I guess we probably need to find that out too. Because I did not find any information about executive education programs, because they have their own tuition rates, and each program has their own specific tuition.
Right.
That's charged, and it won't even show up as tuition. It'll just show up on the bill as executive education such and such program, and it'll just have whatever their tuition is for that, and they have their own payment plans and things like that.
Right. Yeah, I think it's probably safe to say that most of them probably are not a part of this orientation. It could just be that somebody saw it and, just decided to kind of join in and to kind of be a part of it. But I think it's safe to say that, Leticia, if you have more information, please feel free to share. Okay, so moving on to another question. It says, are there going to be any additional taxes on top of the tuition and fees? Will it depend on the country the student is coming from? Additional taxes.
As far as tuition and fees is concerned, we don't charge taxes on our tuition and fees. It's just a tuition rate based on our tuition charges for non-resident students. If you're not a resident of Texas, there are no additional taxes. The only time that you may have to go through the International Tax Compliance Office is maybe if you're receiving payment, funding for something, you're receiving a paycheck from the university or something like that. Other than that, we don't charge taxes on our tuition.
Okay. Here's another question. I thought this was interesting. It says, can I be a non-resident for the first year, I guess for their first year at UT Dallas, and considered a resident when for the next year? So I guess in the first year they were considered as a non-resident, but then going into their second year their status has changed and they're considered now a resident. And I'm assuming they're meaning resident of the state of Texas, not like
right.
legal permanent. So
I guess the main thing on that is that that residency questionnaire is very, very important, because I think what happens sometimes is that when a student comes to Texas and they're going to school, and so they live here in Texas, right? So you assume, okay, well, now I live in Texas and I'm going to school at UT Dallas, so I should be a Texas resident after 12 months. Because if you look at the residency questionnaire, it says, have you been living in Texas for 12 months? But if you also notice, it'll say prior to enrolling in a Texas university or something like that. So because if you think about it, every student that comes to UT Dallas, and if they live here, and they go to school for, let's say they go fall, spring, summer, and, fall again, and they just continue to live here, they technically have been living in Texas for 12 months, right? That would almost make every student that comes in after 12 months a resident. So that's not really how that works. You can't move to Texas and go to school, and then after you've been here 12 months, you are considered a resident of Texas. It doesn't work that way. Of course, the residency office, registrar's office, could definitely explain that to you more. But there are residency, I guess, things that you have to do to be considered an actual resident. of Texas. I can't tell you what those are or how you do that, but there are students who have come over to from another country, lived in Texas. Maybe they went to school for a little while, and then maybe they were somehow able to establish residency not as a student, and then they were able to come back later as a resident. But that doesn't usually happen right away. That there's a process that you have to go through. So more than likely, if you're coming in for the spring semester of 2022 and you continue to attend UT Dallas, you're going to be considered a non-resident student the entire time that you're at UT Dallas.
Right, and actually, so once again, I did post the link in the chat. So whoever asked that question, maybe if you need to scroll up to the chat, there is a link. It will say registrar.utdallas.edu/resident/FAQ. So if you see a link that says registrar, that's for the registrar office that takes you to the FAQ. And I'm actually on the page right now, and there is an FAQ question that says, I am an international student. How can I qualify for Texas residency? And it has several bullet points for that. So
okay, great.
Per Lisa's advice, just please consult that link because that information is taken care of and managed by the registrar's office, and they will be able to further clarify any questions that you have on that particular topic. Okay, so there are questions in here about which you have already answered, but basically just questions saying that if someone is paying for their tuition and fees from an account that's coming from abroad, if it needs to go through Flywire.
Yes, it does.
And yes, the answer is absolutely yes. And they're the only provider, the only service that we use. So that's pretty much what you have to use. Okay, I think some of these are pretty repetitive. It says, okay, I think you actually might have answered this already, but it says, when will the loans taken from the US, I guess loans that were borrowed from within the US for spring 2022 be certified, and will the university request the tuition fee as well as other service fees which are mentioned in the tuition estimate in Orion?
So financial aid is the one who certifies the loans that come through, all private loans, whether it be for a resident student, an international student. It does go through the financial aid office. I can tell you that it will be certified once they receive the certification. Depends on when they receive the certification. Basically, when you're approved for the loan, they'll send a certification to financial aid. Financial aid will only certify it once you're a registered student. And then once the loan is certified, the funds will be sent to the university sometime around the first day of class if you've done it in time. Now, with some of the international lenders, they do take a little, it's a U.S. loan, but the ones who lend to international students, sometimes they take a while to do their processing. And so oftentimes, I will tell you that those students will end up having to take a short-term loan for their very first semester that they attend, because again, sometimes it can take a little while for them to actually process the loan for the international student. So I can't give you a time frame. It really is based on when you've been approved for the loan, when the financial aid receives the certification, and when the lender has prepared the funding to send to the university. You definitely want to contact financial aid to find out what status. If you already know you've been approved or you already know the certifications come, you want to contact financial aid to find out what status your loan is in. They may not know if you have not been approved and it has not been sent to the university, but if you've already done everything with the lender that you need to do, then they may be able to check on it for you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, here's another question. It says, when we are calculating the tuition estimate, I know the number of credit credits for courses, but how can I calculate the number of hours? I think they're thinking that the number of credits versus the number of hours are two different things.
Yes, so credit hours are, yes, so credit hours are the same thing as hours. So credits and hours are the same thing. So if you're enrolled in one class that has a lab, that's going to be 4 credits or 4 hours. And then if you're in, another two classes that are just regular, maybe a management course that doesn't have any kind of lab with it, that's probably going to be another 3 credit hours for that one class. And then let's say you're in 2 of those, so you're looking at about 10 hours. That would be 10 credits. And so that's what you would look at for those 3 classes. They're 3 classes, but they're equaling 10 credits or 10 hours.
Yes. Yes, and I know it might seem a little bit weird to you if you're not used to that system, but trust me, as someone that had to learn that system, Lisa just explained it very well to the point. So just take it as she says. If it might take a while for you to accept it, but just take it how she says it. That's the best way to explain it. Okay, so here's a question. It says, which payment mode should we choose if we have a loan from a U.S. lender and the money is in a U.S. bank account?
If you're going to be paying in payments, then or it just depends. I didn't hear if they said they wanted to do a payment plan or were they going to just pay in full?
They didn't say, but I think they wanted to maybe like what options they have.
Okay, so if you have a U.S. bank account, your best option to pay in full is going to be paying by an electronic check, because that's not going to charge you any kind of a fee. The electronic check, again, will require your routing number of your bank. And you can find this if you have a paper check from your bank, checkbook, then you can find this at the bottom of the check. If you don't, you can usually find it on the app. So if you go to the bank app, where it shows your account number, you can usually scroll down a little ways and it'll say routing number, not the wire. There's a wire routing number and then there's just a routing number. You don't ever want to use anything that says wire on it because that's not the correct one. So you want to use the one that says routing number, and then you also want to put in your checking account number, and usually your checking account number is also on that app. You want to put the full checking account. As long as you do it that way, it will go process through your bank and there will be no fee for that. If you want to set up payment plan, and you want to make payments, in the installment, then you could also make your first payment using we call it a web check. And basically, again, you're just putting your routing number and your checking account number, and then you can pay that first down payment. And then you can set it up where it automatically takes out the remaining payments on the due date. So it'll ask you, do you want to set up automatic payments for the remaining installments? And then you can check that box and say, yes, you do. And then you wouldn't even have to worry about going on there and doing it yourself. You would just we would automatically take it out of your bank account once the payment due date comes for those other 3 installments. Short-term loan is, you could use your checking account to pay that if you needed to take the short-term loan and you needed to extend your payment to March 6th, and then you could go on and use your bank account. That's the easiest way if you have a U.S. bank account. You can use your debit card, but it is going to charge you because it looks at a debit card the same as a credit card. So it's going to charge you 1.9% of whatever the payment is that you're making. So if you have a U.S. bank account, I always suggest that, and if you have the funding in your account, you should use the web check or the checking account method.
Okay, thank you. And there was another question that came in about residency. Once again, if you have any questions about residency or how to ensure or establish your residency, please consult the link that I put in the chat. And if you would like to email the registrar's office, which is the office that is responsible for answering and addressing these questions, you can email them at residency@utdallas.edu. So you were right, Lisa, it's residency@utdallas.edu. And last question that we have, I'm pretty sure you have already answered it, but maybe this person missed it. They're asking about when they can pay their tuition, and they're asking if it's starting from December the 4th, tuition and fees.
So once we calculate the tuition for spring, you will receive a notification to your UT Dallas email, and it'll say that we have created a billing statement for you. And right around that time, you should be able to access the short-term loan and the installment plan, or you can make payment in full starting at that time. Okay. So just wait for that notification, us letting you know that you have a new billing statement. And please add an authorized user if you have somebody that you want to be able to pay on your behalf or see your bill. They'll also get an email telling them that a billing statement has been created also.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. And it'll go to their personal email address. So because an authorized user isn't going to have a UT Dallas email, they're going to have their own personal email. So sometimes you see those faster if you're not thinking to check your UT Dallas email. Sometimes the authorized user will get a notification and tell you, hey, you know, you have a billing statement. So so wait till you get that billing statement. And once you get that, we send you that first billing statement, then you'll know that everything's ready for you to go and start setting up payment plans and things like that.
Okay, got it. And one question actually just came in. It says, can I pay through my sponsor's US bank account? I guess maybe they're just saying, you know, maybe that person's name on their account is not, you know, the name of the student. I'm not sure if that's kind of. You
can actually pay. We have students who use their parents' checking account. Okay. As long as they're authorizing you to use that information and they're providing it. I suggest that if you're going to have somebody else make payment on your behalf, just set them up as an authorized user and let them go in and put that information in for themselves. Because once you log into EZPAY, and so I know some of you have already been logging in while we've been on this call or this presentation, you can see right there, I believe it's on, if you're looking at your screen, it would be on the right-hand side. It says Add Authorized User. You just click on that, and it'll ask you for the email of the person that you want to have access. And then after that, it'll just send them an email, and then they can go set up their own user ID and password, and then they can log in and actually use their account if they want, you know, to pay on your behalf. They would be able to see the bill. They would be able to make the payment. They could, I believe, they can actually set up the installment plan if you want them to. So they could actually have access to do that on your behalf. Now, like I said, you can go in yourself into your EZPAY account, and as long as they've given you authorization to use their checking account, you can put that information in. It's going to ask you a question. It's going to say, do you want to use this account for a refund account? More than likely, unless you want them to get the money back into their account if it's refunded, then you probably want to say no to that, because, you know, they may not have paid everything. They may have just paid a portion of it with their money. And if you get a refund, you may not want the money to go to them. So just make sure you don't like save that account information as a refund profile unless you want them to get a refund of any money that comes. But yes, you can use anybody's account that gives you authorization. You can use their credit card, their debit card. You can use their checking account. It doesn't prevent you. It's not name-based. It'll ask you whose name is on the card. It'll ask you whose name is on the checking account, but it doesn't only allow you to pay using your own name. Okay. Because we know your students, and we know that, you know, parents and grandparents, and there are people that pay on your behalf. And so we don't want to prevent you from being able to go in and use that information as long as they're giving you authorization. Right.
Okay, and we did have one more question. I'm not sure if it's the same person that asked that question, but it's basically the same question about if you can use a sponsor's account. But there's a follow-up. It says, will there be any convenience charges? So I guess
only if you're using a credit card or debit card. If it's a card, if you're using anything that has a card number on it, that there will be. If you're just using the checking account, routing number, information, there will not be a fee. That's for, it doesn't matter whose account it is. Those are just the two things that charge fees. The credit and debit card charge fees, but the checking account does not, like when you put routing in and the checking account number. Okay. And if you have questions, definitely call us. about the routing number and the checking account number, because like I said, we do have students that will put their debit card number in for their checking account number, and then it might take it in the system because the EZPAY system does not verify the checking account number, because it really has no way to verify that. It can only verify the routing number. And so if you put the routing number for, let's say you have, a US bank, whatever, and you put that in and that bank comes up, and then you put a checking account number in there that's not the right number, or you put your debit card number in there, it'll try to go process that, and then it will return that back to us. And then you will have fees on your account, because that would be considered a return check that didn't pay. So you want to make sure you use the right information when you're putting that information on for the web check payments.
Okay. And we had one more question that came in again. It says basically they're asking for the payment due dates for the spring 2022 semester.
Okay, so if you're not a financial aid recipient, that means you have no financial aid coming through the UT Dallas Financial Aid Office. That doesn't mean financial aid from your home country. It means financial aid from our financial aid office. So a scholarship, some kind of stipend, or a private loan that comes through the U.S. Those students, their deadline is January 20th. The ones that do not have any financial aid is January the 6th. So it's a little bit earlier, and I'll tell you why. The students who have to pay and they don't have any financial aid from our school, theirs is earlier. And the reason we extend the financial aid deadline to a little later is because we know that it takes time for the financial aid to process through our system. How I had mentioned, sometimes the departments didn't get the scholarship information over to, or it takes a little while to process the scholarships over to the financial aid office from the departments. And then the financial aid office has to take that money and put it onto your student account. So it's a little bit of a process. So we give the financial aid office a little bit more time, and the departments a little bit more time to send that money over to your account. That's why it's not that we're just, want to be mean and say, hey, y'all are paying out of pocket, y'all have to pay early, and these people don't. It takes more time to process. And so, just make sure you know which deadline is yours. If you're receiving a notification from our office, this is very, very important. If you're receiving a notification from our office through email, and it's saying that your payment deadline is the 6th, and you should have the 20th, then you need to, contact financial aid and find out why you don't have an extension on your account. And maybe that they haven't been notified of your scholarship or your private loan or whatever it is. So it's very important to pay attention to those emails that we're sending you saying, hey, this is your deadline, you need to pay, or else you could be dropped for non-payment. Because once you get dropped for non-payment, then it can be hard to get back into the same classes. So it's very important that you follow those deadlines.
Yes, so true. Very true. Yes, and I actually also went ahead in the chat. I dropped a link to the spring 2022 academic calendar, which does have, many different deadlines on there, but it does have a section that includes, it has a Bursar schedule section, payment options, payment due dates.
Yeah, so that would be the second one. The one that says payment and refund calendar, that one is specifically related to our bill, your payment deadlines, the payment plan deadlines, the short-term loan deadlines, and then also like if you plan on dropping, and we call that the refund schedule. So it's basically, when am I going to receive a refund if I drop a class, or if I withdraw, how much money am I going to get credit back to my account?
Yes, so definitely please check out that resource. And I think Lisa mentioned this earlier in her presentation, but the refund schedule is something that is, a policy that is a state policy. So, if you drop a class, whenever you want to drop a class and, you want to get the refund process ASAP, within the next 30 seconds, that may not be possible. So just make sure that you read and, whatever you need to do, just plan ahead. So getting the information and planning ahead so that you and or, anybody else that's kind of involved in this, this financial aspect of your education, so that they can know what to expect. And if they ask you a question, then you can refer to the academic calendar. But once again, if you were not able to catch all of this information, it might have been a lot. This recording will be available on our YouTube channel. So we should have it up within about 2 business days so that you can refer to it. If you need to share it with anybody else that might need this information as well, you can do so that everybody can be on the same page in terms of what to expect regarding paying your tuition and fees, because it takes a village sometimes, right? It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to send that child to school, to university. So you can have that information and you can share it with others, other people who are kind of sponsoring you along this process. Okay, we have answered all the questions in the chat, and therefore we have come to the end of this information session. We would like to go ahead and say a great big thank you, the biggest thank you to Lisa Davis, the Assistant Director of Student Accounts, because trust me, she can explain this information so well. And let me tell you, if I tried, oh gosh. So just please, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. We know that you're so busy. The new semester is coming up, and I know that you have a lot going on, but you always are so excited to come on here and share this information. So we really appreciate it. Thank you to the rest of the ICP team, to Leticia Zamaripa, to Rodolfo Hernandez, and to Flower Mwangi for participating in this orientation information session. And everyone, wherever you are, please continue to stay safe, and we will see you next time for our next information session, which will be actually next week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.